looking at the attributes and qualities of a good partner. Next, we discuss the reason not to hook up with a partner. In other words, don't get married just because. So join me, Noel Professor Richards. George and Riquen is back on Men Talk, Saturday 19th March, 8 p.m. on FBN TV, Isaac The Promise Facebook page, and Isaac 98.1 FM The Promise. Sponsored in part by Anaya Tony, the Feet Lady.
Hello.
Hey Jack, you missed the meeting yesterday, boy. What happened?
Andrea was under some pressure, boy. Well, you know, Uncle have diabetes, high blood pressure, and poor circulation. He couldn't even walk properly yesterday, so I took him to the Feet Lady, boy, Dr. Anaya Tony. And let me tell you something, when they're done with him, he feels so good. You know the man forget he walking stick by them. When I go back for the next session, we'll get back, man.
I must send that number to my cousin. She have a pinched nerve, lupus. And I think she uncle got a stroke, you know. I had to see about my back pain too.
Well, Andrea, what are you waiting for? Take these numbers down one time. 360-5166 and 478-7416. Dr. Anaya Tony, boy, the Feet Lady from Anaya Health and Wellness Center. You can't go wrong.
To the men who feel like you're at your wits' end, don't know how you got it.
Hi, good evening, Professor. Go right ahead. Hearing.
Maybe it's too late, too long, too much, too far. I've got good news, something I think you need to understand.
Good evening, Professor. You hearing us?
Loud and clear.
Nice.
Thank you, Adesola. Good evening to you.
Good evening
and
to you.
of course, good evening to Trinidad and Tobago and the rest of the world listening to us via the World Wide Web. We are live on FBN TV, also Isaac The Promise Facebook page, and of course right here on Isaac 98.1 FM. Welcome to Men Talk, and the Men Talk really is about men talking, and we do it every Saturday evening at 8 o'clock from 8 to 9:30, 1.5 hour of men talking. Where have you heard that? Where do you get that? Yeah, certain spaces, certain places, I guess you do have men talking, but generally you hear more about women talking. But every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, we meet here on these three forums where we share, you know, our hearts and our souls as men. And today is no exception. So we welcome you to Men Talk. And if you're new to the program or you're new to the station, well, we want to let you know that it's an interactive program. It's a program where we talk, we discuss, and then you get an opportunity as the listener to call in and ask a question, make a comment based on what we are talking about. And, well, as I said, it's interactive. But one of the things, one of the rules, the stipulations that we have is that because we want to encourage men to talk, because we want to encourage men to share their hearts, we ask the ladies, please, all you ladies who are listening and maybe listening for the first time, we ask you please to refrain from calling. Allow the men to call. You know, whoever, whatever man is there close to your husband, your boyfriend, your son, father, brother, or just, you know, just a male friend. Even if you have a question, ladies, we want to ask you to ask them to call in and to ask the question or make a comment. However, ladies, you do get an opportunity to interact with us. We're not leaving you out because we know that your thoughts and even your questions are valuable. So we give you an opportunity to do that, and you can take the number down right now. It's a WhatsApp number where you can WhatsApp a text message to us, a text message, not a voice note, a text message, ladies, and we'll be sure to address it. That number is 275, 1981, 275 1981. That's for the ladies, and for the men who are shy. You know, there are some men who don't like to call in, and sometimes based on the topic as well, they don't want their voices recognized. They don't want people to know, and maybe even their spouse to know that they're calling in. So they would send a text message. Not a problem with that, gentlemen. Not a problem. So, but we have created that primarily for the ladies, so they would not feel left out. So ladies, please do not send a voice note. Send a text message to 275 1981. And in studio today, well, I didn't introduce myself. For those of you who don't know, my name is Noel Richards. I'm also known as the Professor. So you hear everybody calling Professor or Pro or Prof. That's me. And with me today, my co-host, George Thomas. George, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Professor. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, and the wider worldwide listenership of 98.1 FM. I'm so happy to be here at yet another mentor on a Saturday.
Always good to have you, George. Always good to have you. We were supposed to have Riquen today. I don't know if he's on, or maybe he's not on as yet. But Riquen is back with us today. And the reason for that, too, is because this topic that we're going to discuss tonight is really a follow-up from what we have been talking about over the last few weeks. And what we have been talking about, let me bring you up to speed if you haven't been around. We have been talking about what are the qualities and attributes look for in a partner. And we have been exploring that over the last few weeks, talking about it, discussing it. And we have explored that topic, and we want to follow up on that topic tonight. So if Riquen is not here yet, then I guess you will join us somewhere, along the way. But Riquen, if you're listening, we would be glad to have you. We also want to say thank you to our sponsor. That's the Feet Lady, Anaya Tony. We say much thanks to you for being a part of this program, because we know that you recognize the importance of men talking. And so we say thank you so much for your sponsorship. Riquen is here. Wonderful. Riquen, good evening and welcome.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. Welcome, TNT.
Yes, but we're going beyond TNT right now. We are streaming across the globe. So we want to say good evening, good morning, good day, good afternoon, whatever time it is, where you are. We want to say, as long as it's good, whether it's good morning or good evening, whatever, it's good. And we just want to welcome you to this program on Isaac 98.1 FM, and of course, FBN TV and Isaac the Promise Facebook page. So we have been looking at the attributes that you look for, the qualities that you look for in a partner. As a man, you're looking for a partner. We explored these, and we outlined a number of things that we need to look for. And, it's good to know. It's good to know what you see. If you don't know what you're looking for, then you will never know when you find it. So we have kind of put together this package of what men ought to seek when they're looking for a partner, and they're looking to get married, and they're looking for, a relationship. So we've been talking about that. But today we want to kind of switch it a little bit, and we want to talk about what not to look for. Can we put it that way? In fact, I want to say, don't get married just because. That's the way, excuse me, I want to put it. Don't get married or don't get hooked up just because. And I have asked both George and Riquen to present their own thoughts on this. I'm going to kick it off. And men, we want you, as you listen, men, and we open up the line, we want to hear from you as well on your thoughts, because we want to guide those who may not have tied the knot as yet. And, gentlemen, you would have done that, or even if you might have refrained from doing it because of a particular reason. We want to hear from you, because we want to help men. We want to help men. Okay, so don't get married just because, and you'll fill in the blanks. So here we go. We want to kick it off, and I will kick it off, and then I'm going to ask the others to join in, because I asked them to also come up with their own thoughts. So I want to start off like this. You're down in the dumps. You're going through stress. You're going through all kind of problems, maybe financial problem, or relationship problem, or whatever it is you're going through, and you need somebody to talk to, and somebody that you could vent and someone who would understand you and hold your hand and walk you through the process. And this person, you know, however you met the person, whether this was a good friend or someone at work or wherever, you've met this person, and this person has been there for you. They've been there with you through and through. They've been there to see you laugh and to cry with you, to walk with you, to hold your hand. And I don't mean just literally, or, you know, I'm talking figuratively, to be there for you and to help you get back on your feet again, to get back to that place where you ought to be, where you want to be. And this person has done so much for you. They have poured into your life in many different ways. They may have sacrificed for you. And you're now, you're on your feet again, you're good. You're feeling good. But this person has now expressed an interest in you. Somewhere along the line, maybe, or maybe even before, maybe not just somewhere along, maybe that was the reason why they wanted to help. Maybe. Or maybe somewhere along the line they developed feelings for you. And you don't really reciprocate those feelings. But because they've been there for you, because they've done so much for you, you feel a sense of obligation. You feel, hey, this person has said they love with me and they're thinking about a future with me. And you can't say no because the person has done too much for you. They've done so much more, I mean, above and beyond the call of duty. They have been there for you. When everyone else deserted you, when everybody else looked at you a particular way, they didn't see that. They didn't see what you were going through. They didn't define you by what you were going through. They were there to help you go through it. And now they're saying to you, hey, I'm feeling so, you know, I'm in love with you, or whatever, however they express themselves. And they want to have a future with you. And you feel a sense of obligation, because how could you turn this person down after they have done so much for you? How could you? I mean, that is unthinkable. You have to reciprocate. You have to say yes to the person, right? How could you do that? And we are saying that obligation is no reason to get married to the person. Not out of obligation. Now, there may be other things, but we're talking about obligation. You don't get hooked up with a person or married to somebody, or, you know, make a commitment to spend the rest of your life with them because you feel you owe it to them. You owe your life to them because they've been so kind to you. So this is the first no that I want to put. Don't get married just because you feel obligated. You feel that you can't say no, or that you should not say no, because the person has blessed you tremendously. They have done so much for you. So this is the first, this is my offering, my first offering. So I don't know if you guys want to comment on it. And what we will do as well, people, we want to open up the lines too, because we want to hear from the men. Maybe you have gone through that. Maybe that is something that you're going through right now. Maybe you're feeling a sense of, hey, you know, I can't get out of this, you know, because, I mean, look what this woman do for me. When nobody else was there for me, she was there. Nobody else ever seen me cry. She saw me cry because she knew I was hurting so much. What do I do now? I can't say no. All right, so if you, as a listener, you're hearing, and I'm talking to the men in particular, because we know, ladies, you can, you know, these things that we're talking about would affect you as well, too. But this is men talk, so we're talking to the men right now. And so we will open up the line straight away to, if, as a man, you have experienced that and you want to share with us, or maybe you're going through that, let me give you the numbers to call one time. 480-4121, 480-4121, and 463-7208. 463-7208. And of course, you can send us a text message to 275-1981. Ladies, that's for you, and even for some of you gentlemen too. You know, you could send it, right? So let me just quickly give you the numbers again: 480-4121, 480-4121, 463-7208, 463-7208, and the WhatsApp number is 275-1981. Gentlemen, let's get the ball rolling. What say you? Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? You know anybody who has ever gone through that? Talk to me.
Well, I would have liked to let my brother Riquen go before me. So I don't know, Riquen, if you have a contribution. I'll let you go first, and then I will say what's on my mind.
All right, sure. So that's an interesting one. And the perspective that Professor would have shared is one where so I would say the hero or the heroine fell in love with the commoner or the one who had the problem or the challenge or whatever. Sometimes it's actually the other way around, where the person who is being helped falls in love with the helper. And so we have both scenarios. So I would first say that there are actually marriages that still exist that have gone pretty well coming out of that scenario. All right. So I would not say that it cannot work. But if it is the only basis for getting married, then it's kind of shaky. That kind of iffy. You understand? And you could be setting yourself up for problems, because what you're feeling in the initial stages may not be sustainable in the long term. All right. So that sense of obligation, I mean, it is a strong feeling. And let's not deny that that feeling of obligation, it could be pretty strong, you know.
Okay, I don't know if we've lost Riquen there.
Yes, I realize that. Well, in the meantime, I will say what I have to say.
Yes.
It has taken my mind back to last week, I believe, when either last week or the week before, when Riquen made a point that when two people are getting into marriage, they need to be whole. You know, when you are in someone's debt, you can never fully, wholly be yourself. You will always be a fraction of yourself, being mindful of the fact that you are indebted to this person or that you owe this person. And, you know, there's a wise saying that comes to mind that reveals that the character of a woman is revealed when a man has nothing. However, the character of a man is revealed when that man now has everything. So going into a relationship with someone who has come from nothing, you may not necessarily be able to see the full character of that person. That person may change when they come into a position of having something, particularly if they do not feel the same way for you, and out of gratitude for whatever you may have done for them, they commit to you. You may find that when that person steps into having and being their whole self, you may see a change in their affection towards you, their respect for you, and you may see an entire overhaul of their attitude towards you, you know, in that type of scenario. A second point that I would like to bring across, because this is something that I have experienced through a friend of mine. There are some people that target people who are in need. They target people who they see are under the gun, because in their mind they believe that it is easier to control that person, because it's always easy for them to reproach that person and say, well, look what I did for you, and look where I brought you from. That is not love. And that is not a proper foundation for marriage to exist upon. Because eventually what you're going to find happening is, it's human nature. That person is eventually going to become tired of being reminded of the favor or favors that were done for them, and eventually that marriage will fall apart. So I agree with you 1,010%, Professor, that more often than not, that is not an ideal scenario to suggest marriage or stepping into marriage from. You know, the two parties need to be themselves. There's nothing wrong with a woman helping a man to get to a place where he needs to be. And at that point in time, when he's gotten to that place where he needs to be, that they have that conversation about union. But before that, it is not a wise thing to get into. Now, I remember a story some years back where a woman took up a man, he was homeless, and she eventually refined him to the status that he used to be in, and they lived happily for quite a number of years. But that tends to more so be the exception to the rule. What the rule usually is that eventually that person, when they come into their own, they will eventually seek the ideals and the values that they would have had from before, and more often than not, they would find it in someone else. So that's my contribution. I don't know if Riquen is back on, but I would put it back over to you, Riquen, if you're available once again.
Yeah, I think Riquen is back. Yes?
Yes, I am back. Sorry about that break in transmission beyond my control. There wasn't much more I was going to add. Just to say that if obligation is the only basis, then it's not a strong enough basis to get married. So that would be my contribution.
Indeed. Thank you so much. You know, and the thing is, I know George pointed out a scenario, but you know, sometimes it's not that people plan that. Maybe in the woman's effort to assist, they would have gotten close, and she would have developed feelings for him, and maybe she expressed those feelings. But I'm looking at it from the man's perspective. You know, what do you do if somebody says to you, or they shares with you that they have those feelings, and you know, they're thinking about the future and that kind of thing? What do you do? And it puts you in a kind of awkward position. It puts you in a place where you don't necessarily want to be. But even as you know, as you both said, that is not a basis for spending the rest of your life together. Obligation, you know, sometimes that runs out, it wears out, and what happens after that? So that's my first contribution with regards to, about not getting married. So I ask these two gentlemen to share as well. So I don't know which one of you would want to go first to share your thoughts, to share one of the reasons why you think that people should not get married or not hook up. Like I have to do like a teacher and call.
Oh goodness. Brother Riquen, you go first.
All right, okay. Well, I go with an easy one, right? Easy one. You know, especially back in the day, you know, when boy meet girl like each other, or man meet woman like each other, didn't get married, but as we would say, they fornicated, right? So they had premarital relations, and the girl get pregnant.
I'm hearing some fathers shining the shotgun as you're speaking. Continue.
The girl get pregnant. There are a lot of marriages that came about as a result of that situation. And so, is that a valid enough reason to get married if the young lady gets pregnant as a result of that connection? So I am throwing that out. You know, is that a valid enough reason? Because listen, back in the days, especially if you were in church in certain circles, you had to get married. You understand?
Yeah.
Because it's one of the ways that was used to avoid shame, to deal with shame, to cover up shame. You know, and it would appear as if people were more concerned about how it could look. You understand that than what was right or suitable for the couple. So let me get your gentlemen, both you gentlemen take. As I say, that's an easy one, but what's the?
Yes, George, go ahead, George.
Well, there's so much surrounding. I mean, you just scratch the surface of it, because now, as I said, there would be some fathers who they pull out the wax cloth and they just shining the shotgun and they're shaking their head and saying, because now you'd find that not only is it that they would have been covering how it looked, but you would have found that there were young men who were now pressured by the church, by the family of the girl, by their own family to get into this marriage, even to the point where the ultimatums were given to them. You know, if you don't marry this girl, I cut you off from the inheritance because you're bringing shame to the family. And it has always been a basis of pride and shame. However, the truth of it is, how much more shameful would it be thereafter when the children are around and you come to a place where you realize, I am not in love with this person. This is not the person that was meant for me. And now, 2 or 3 children down the line, I am now developed as a man and I find that this is the time to walk away from this marriage because I was never in love to begin with. So I would agree with you, Brother Riquen, that under the circumstance of having a child out of wedlock, it is not an appropriate reason to become husband and wife. You know, at the end of the day, there's a wonderful term that we have in 2022 called co-parenting, where there are successful parents who are not married, who take care of their children to the best of their ability, and they also have taken the step to take care of what they would have liked to have in terms of marriage without committing to one another. So yes, indeed, this is one clear reason, one neon lit reason not to get married.
Thank you, George. Before I make my comment, just want to let the folks know that you're listening to Men Talk on Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise. You can also see us on Facebook. That's Isaac The Promise Facebook page. And you can also view us on FBN TV. That's our YouTube channel. So, you know, not just hear us, but you can see us as well. And we want to say thank you once again to our sponsor, Anaya Tony, the Sweet Lady, the lady who does reflexology. And, you know, Riquen, that point you brought up there is another form of obligation, really, because you feel obligated. And obligated in this case is a mild word because some people, as George was saying, some fathers have the shotgun out. You impregnate my daughter, then you have to marry her. And back in the day, as you said, Riquen, that is what used to happen to avoid the shame. Now we know we're living in a different era, a different age, where there are a lot of young women, a lot of women who are pregnant out of wedlock, and they feel no sense of shame. So I'm not sure if that would hold today in our time. But I agree with you, gentlemen. It is not a valid reason to get married. Of course, pregnancy should come within marriage or after you are married. And one mistake can can change your life in the sense that because you made that mistake, now you have to go get married. You may not be mentally prepared, financially prepared, nolly prepared. You're not prepared for it at all, but you made a mistake. And yes, you have to live with your mistake because you have to own up to your responsibility as a father. You know, you planted a seed, so now you have to take care of the garden, and I understand that. But this is a very, very weak and shaky ground to build a marriage on, to build a relationship on. And I know even as I speak, a number of people are saying, but that happened to us and it worked. And we're in love today and the marriage lasts. And yes, you know, that has happened. And we thank God for that and we bless God for that it worked out that way. But that is not the rule, as you know, just to use the analogy that George was using. That's not the rule, that's really the exception. And so we want to encourage you, I mean, and it happens a lot in church. It happens a lot because the young lady is a nice little church girl and you want to ensure that you maintain her reputation and that sort of thing. So you let them get married and with nothing else, no sort of counseling, no sort of encouragement, you know, because, and the primary focus of the marriage is because of the pregnancy. And that, my dear friend, is a recipe for trouble, for chaos. So I do not agree that is a good basis. It has worked in some instances. Yes, we understand that it has worked. But I know back in the days, in the Old Testament days, I mean, she would have been stoned. She would have been, she would have been in real trouble, if she was found to be pregnant, you know, outside of wedlock. But we don't live in those days anymore. And mistakes, you don't duplicate or you don't escalate a mistake that someone made by you know, making another mistake. And I see that as a mistake. So that's my contribution to it. So thank you so much. So we move on to Uncle George.
Yes,
Uncle
absolutely. George. And I the one that I'm going to bring is one that's near and dear to my heart. And, you know, I know that a number of ladies, especially who are listening as well, could identify with this. You know, I'm 44 years of age and I'm unmarried. And every so often...
Are you advertising?
No, just stating, just stating the case. So, you know, every so often at a family gathering, you would hear an uncle say, boy, time rolling on you, you know, time for you to get married. What's going on? Where's the young lady? Who's the young lady? You know, you would hear an aunt say, but look, all your other cousins married already, and you still, what you're waiting on? You know, and you would have other family members saying, well, like I ain't going and get to see grand sibling from you. What's going on? Your age is not a reason to jump into a marriage, especially within 2022. We are seeing right now the landscape of committing to a marriage. It's greatly changed. You know, there are people who have gone for their degrees, they've established themselves in the workplace, they've established their careers, and, you know, they are taking their time in getting into marriage. Don't allow your age or the time factor to define you in a marriage. Using that as a reason to get into marriage is hastening to an accident. Because you're not going to be able to fully do your checks and balances to see if this person is right for you. I know with a number of women, they talk about their biological clock. Thank God there have been a number of medical advances in the field of medicine, and there are women who are able to have their children later on in life than previously expected. So, you know, even within that regime of that biological clock, do not allow your lifelong happiness to be circumvented because you're trying to beat a certain age. And I'll pass it on to my brothers to hear what they have to say about this.
Okay, Riquen?
Right. So, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. Maybe you should ask him to give his number too and send a picture, you know.
I am not rushing it at all.
Oh, Lord. So, for the guys, age may be less of a concern than the ladies. And the area of concern for the ladies comes in more when we're looking at the issue of children. Because, you know, you don't want to be too old or you don't want to be like Sarah. I remember that past the age of childbearing when you really want a child, right? So, I mean, we have a lot of young women or a lot of women who, you know, have set dates in their minds, you know, that by age 30, you know, I should be married, or age 35. And once you start across that, then a quiet desperation may step in. And what that could lead to is compromised decision making. You know, you might cut your corners in terms of your due diligence, as we spoke about the last couple of weeks. For the guys, age may be less of an issue than for the women. But at the same time, you know, we would not encourage our brothers to get married because they approaching a certain age. I mean, you're approaching 50, you know, and by this time, you know, you need to settle down and what have you. So I would concur, you know, don't allow age to be the deciding factor in making that decision, but more stage, right? What stage are you in life? And if you're at the stage where you can afford, and I'm putting in afford in inverted commas, because it's not just financial, right? Where you can afford to get married. If you're at that stage, then by all means. And you know, we know people who have gotten married in their 50s, in their 60s, even in their 70s. You know, so hey, as long as there's life, you know, there's hope. The reasons for getting married may differ. When you're in the latter stages, you may more be looking for companionship, as opposed to somebody who is younger who may want children and that sort of stuff. But that should not be the driving reason. So over to you, Professor.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. And I concur. I agree. But I think, you know, for the men, it's not so much that when you talk about the woman's biological clock ticking. I believe for the men, it is more that, you know, I want somebody to carry on my name. I want a son. I want my name to go on. And if, you know, the longer I take, the less chance there will be of that. So that, you know, you want to get married now because you want to be fruitful and multiplying in yourself. And it's not so much, I mean, yes, you want daughters too, but, you know, men, there's this thing about boy child with men. I want a boy, I want a man child. So you would find that he would be more quickly coerced into getting into a relationship and getting into marriage, you know, because of that thought, because of that desire, that need to multiply himself. Because that's one of the things that men feel make them a man, when they could have a child, and particularly a man child, a boy child. So I think for the men it's a little different. The ladies, they're thinking about, you know, getting pregnant at a later later age and the complications that that could come up because of that, and that is understood. But it's no reason to get married now. As George says, we're living in 2022 when so much more can be done for for ladies. But for the men in particular, listen, brother, even Abraham had a child when he was 99 years old. So you don't have to worry about it. Okay? And we're living in 2023 as well. So, gentlemen, that is no reason for getting into a relationship or getting married.
And
Yeah?
if I could add just a little thing to it, Professor, this is what some men may be looking at. Now, you have 3 boys, Professor, and with your 3 boys, from being around you, I know that you were able to be there for them as they went through martial arts, as they're going through their activities as young men. They have their father at their side. You may have helped them to learn to ride a bike, help them to run, to engage in sports. Now, for a man who is up in years, let's say beyond my age, we're talking about in his 50s, heading to his 60s, he may be concerned that there are certain things that he may no longer be able to physically impart to his son, in terms of physical activities that he can share father-son relationship-wise. He might not be able to go hike. I loved going hiking as a young boy. I hardly see myself at this age, far less in my 60s, doing hiking. Now, there are some men that are physical specimens that are able to do it well into their 70s and so on. However, when you look at the major cross-section of the population, there are a number of men beyond a certain age, they're no longer able to engage in some of these things. And, that time, that quality time that you would spend as a father with your children, it becomes something of a testing for an older man as opposed to a younger man. So that's just one little point that I would put in there.
But George, there are a lot of young men who don't have fathers, huh? There are lots of young men who don't have fathers and who probably looking for a father. And you may not have a biological son, but there are a lot of young men you could mentor, you could father, you could be there for. I want to encourage you because we have a shortage of mentors. We have the harvest is plenteous and laborers are few. That's one of the part of the harvest that we really laborers are really few. So so to get your own son, I mean, it's good to have your own son, that came from you. But there are so many young men who need
Absolutely.
They need the guidance of an older man. They
Yes,
need
I personally,
shape them.
yeah, I personally pour my time and my energy into my 2 loving nephews that I have under me. I pour what knowledge I have into those young men. And at the end of the day, it is, I would say, Trinidad and Tobago, there's nothing more fulfilling for me. I have no children of my own, but my nephews, they emulate a lot of the values that I've learned, a lot of the morals that I've grown with. Even my father pours into those boys, so that need is fulfilled. Even within the church down Gasparilla there are a number of young men that I associate with, that I speak with, and that I counsel and mentor. So that gap can be filled, yes, indeed, Professor, by you imparting your knowledge onto young men who need you.
Amen. Amen. Folks, you're listening to Mentor on Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise, MBN TV, and Isaac The Promise, our Facebook page, is sponsored in part by Anaya Tony, the Feet Lady. And don't forget, you can call us at any time during the discussion. The numbers to call, they are 480-4121, 480-4121, and 463-7208, 463-7208. You can send us a WhatsApp message to 275-1981. We want to hear from you. We are talking, but we want to hear from you as well, because we know some of you, some of the things that we are talking about, that you have experienced it, or you know somebody who has experienced it. Tell us how it turns out, or how it turned out. Tell us, what was the experience like. We want to hear from you, and maybe something we haven't mentioned as yet that you would want to share with us concerning reasons why you should not get married, at least not for that particular reason. And that's what we're talking about tonight. So I want to offer another one, gentlemen, and it's it's interesting. Everybody, and I know I have seen and heard this before. Everybody, your family and your friends, you have somebody, maybe you are in a relationship with them, or maybe you're not even in that kind of relationship with them. But your family, your relatives, they say, hey, or they make a real good couple. I can imagine the kind of children or they will have. They put all the brains together, the beauty and the brains together, the kind of children or they will produce geniuses here. Listen, you think you all should get married. You all are perfect for each other. I have heard that already. So is that a good enough reason? I'll do it like Riquen, because I was saying that, but I'm going to push it forward now. Is that a good enough reason? You want to have beautiful children, the DNAs, when them two DNAs come together, man, the kind of children that we will produce, I tell you, they will change this world, because both of us are brilliant. Maybe we have our degrees and this, we have good jobs, or and she's gorgeous and I am whatever, whatever reasons, when we come together, we will produce, what we will produce will be something the world has never seen before. Right? And because of that, we think, you all should get married, man. You all should get married and contributing to society. You're contributing to the world. Is that a good enough reason to get married? Gentlemen, let me hear from you. And folks, don't forget, you can call us at any time and share with us what you think about what we're discussing. Let's hear from the gentlemen, my two friends.
Well, it sounds a very tempting reason. Sounds a very tempting reason. I mean, we've heard these stories, about those who want to have children of a certain hair texture. And so they look for a certain, type of man or a certain skin tone. And they choose accordingly.
I'm 44 years old, yeah, go ahead.
I tell you.
Sorry, George. My apologies. Go ahead, Riquen.
Yeah. And I mean, these reasons sound pretty good, pretty compelling. But the question arises, can it stand on its own when it comes to sustaining the longevity of a relationship? And the answer is no. The answer is no. If you want to produce a genie, a child genius, that probably is even more tempting, because here what, a lot of us in the family, we didn't reach too far, but herein lies an opportunity, to bring some recognition to the family. How we could allow our minds to conjure up some stuff.
Good evening, Professor. A call is coming in.
Okay, let's take the call. Riquen will continue.
Sure.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, everyone there. Very important discussion. And it surprised me to hear you all say that in this present day time you don't live up to the principles where marriage is concerned, like what we used to follow in children long ago. Because I think that was the better way. What I feel now, whether a long time or whatever time or the future or the present time, where marriage is concerned, marriage should be, let me say, a fella might be a young fella, he might be going on 2, 3 women. Marriage should be the one that he feels out of the 3 that he will get along with better. Out of those 3 persons, he will have sense, he will know that which one is likely that he might be able to to live a good life with, have marriages, have children, and what have you. That's how it should be at this time. The question of placing different things for marriage, no, that shouldn't be so. For instance, you may have a person, he might be going on, maybe one woman for that matter, and you want to tell me that he have a child, or he had 2 children, and he still make him mind what he going with that woman? He still make him mind to marry there? No, that's good. That's good at all. That's very bad. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. And I'm not sure why he said something about we said something that people these days don't adhere to the marriage principles. I don't think we said anything like that. And if you may not have been listening for the past few weeks, but we have outlined some of the attributes, some of the things that you look for in a spouse. It's not just a matter of, and we would want to even discourage, dating around, having 3 people so that you could choose one. That is not what marriage is about, and that is not what a relationship is about. So, we don't adhere to that sort of thing at all.
Professor,
Right?
if I may add something, Adisola here again.
Sure. Yes, sure.
I think, what you were speaking about before in terms of, and George and everyone was speaking about before, in terms of long ago, they would, a person gets a young lady pregnant and they would say they need to get married. I think another important part of that was the economics of the time. The women would generally, not all, but a lot of the women, they saw it as if the men, this man coming and impregnates my daughter now, he needs to mind my daughter basically, in that kind of a system. So if this person come and he has a child with my daughter, then my daughter that's now going to, as we were saying, Trinidad, see trouble because how she's going to see about this child. So it was a matter of economics, I think, as well. I think now that, women are empowered, women are educating themselves and so forth, you realize that things have changed. I don't really, you don't need to marry me now for me to be able to see about this child. I can see about this child for myself. So, and then the parents as well have so much dreams and goals for their daughters that they in themselves as well don't really, she made a mistake with this individual. I don't want she now to be tied down to this individual. She could go on, I could help her see about this child, and she could go on to live a fruitful life. So I think that as well, and I feel the caller, his statement may have been relating a little bit to how it was in terms of, you come and impregnate my daughter now, and my daughter go out and, see trouble to see what this child, you had to mind your child, so you had to marry my daughter. But I think because of the times changing now and women being empowered, that no more is the need for getting married.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you, Addison. I agree with you 100%, and I thank you for bringing that clarity because, as you said, we're living in different times, and there are some women who, in fact, deliberately get pregnant because they want a child, and they don't necessarily want the man. They want the child, and so they, deliberately do things to get pregnant. I'm not saying it's happening in every instance, but it's just to further your point that because of the economics of those days, yeah, you had to stay and take care of the child, but now things are different. And I like the point you made too, that even parents are saying, well, listen, I don't want my daughter tied to this young man because he impregnated her. There's so much that I want my daughter to accomplish, so much I want her to achieve. And, getting married now is going to, curtail all of that. So times are different. The times that we're living in are different, and a lot of things that helped before, it's not valid now. So thanks so much, Adesola. Riquen, you were making a point. I hope you remember what it is.
Well, I hope so too. So basically, going back to the picture you would have painted, now what is interesting to me is that the suggestion is coming from outside. And I think that is a key point to note. That is these other people outside the relationship that giving these bright ideas that for some reason the couple probably didn't think of themselves. So, if it is, to conform to the suggestion that is being made, and you two as a couple haven't bought into it wholesale, along with other strong supporting reasons to get married. So the primary tenor of this conversation is that the reasons that we outlining on their own are not sufficient to get married. And I think the same applies in this case. Not just because you want a child with a softer texture here, or you want the nose to come out straight, or whatever criteria we may set. That in and of itself is not sufficient reason enough to get married. Because once we do get married, it's not enough to keep the marriage and to sustain it. So I'll hand over to Judge.
Yes, I'm thinking a lot of the times as well that you find that happening where money is involved, where financial stability is involved. One wealthy family looks at another wealthy family and they decide that the son and the daughter need to get married to keep the money in the family, and a lot of the times what happens is that the money that's kept in the family is often used to further promiscuity outside of the family, because now you find that you may bond with this person, and yes, it's genius, but there's nothing there other than that to keep one another together. And the romantic bonds that you may have may lie elsewhere outside of the marriage. And what you would find happening is after maybe 2 years, 5 years, you're going to find that they are either separated or they're filing for divorce, because at the end of the day, there was not enough common ground. There was not enough that they shared to build a foundation upon for marriage. So where that is concerned, Professor Riquen, I agree completely with you both. And I would like to make a spin-off on yet another reason, a very interesting one at that, why you should not get married. And I'm very interested in hearing both your views on this as well. Grief is another reason that people find themselves looking to marriage. When they would have lost a partner, quite often people find themselves on the rebound. And while on the rebound, they find themselves launching themselves into marriage. Either because of a bad breakup, heartache, or the loss of a loved one. And with that situation, it is definitely a dangerous one to use as a basis to get into marriage with someone. So I'd hand it over to you, brothers, to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, well, George, you're hitting a lot of people with that, because I know there are lots of relationships, maybe not even necessarily marriage, but a lot of relationships formed but with someone on the rebound, maybe from a broken relationship or loss of a partner and that sort of thing. And what you're talking about is replacement, or maybe replacement therapy. And you could never fully replace someone or something that you would have lost. And very often we look for, what we're missing in that person, in the new partner. And we want to duplicate or replica of that person. And that very often, or more often than not, does not take place. And again, this is a very shaky foundation. We need to give ourselves time to grieve. I mean, grief is something, even in the Bible, we understand that the Lord expects us to grieve when we suffer the loss. So grief is something that we all go through, and we need to allow ourselves time to grieve rather than trying to replace that person right away, because again, very often what we get is not what we had, and then that could lead to further grief, further disappointment, further loss. And it's also not fair to the person that you're hooking up with now for them to be a replacement for the other person. They are copy, they are replica, they are not the genuine thing, at least not what you desire. So it is not fair to that person, to come into a relationship with somebody who is on the rebound because they're looking for somebody, looking for comfort, they're looking for a reminder, they're looking for, whatever they're looking for to bring them back to that place where they ought to be. So no, that is not a good, grief is never a good reason. We need to grieve. We need to allow ourselves. And grief, I'm not necessarily talking about death only. I'm talking about loss of a partner, relationship breakup. We need to allow ourselves time to heal, because when you have two things together, if you rip them apart, there's going to be some bruising, some scars, some pain, some hurt, and time takes care of that. Time takes care of heal all wounds, they say. I think that's a saying. So you need to allow yourself time, right? So it is not a good reason, especially now with a lifetime commitment like marriage, to get involved with somebody that very soon after you would have lost or broken up in another relationship. Okay, so Riquen.
Okay, let me start off with something you said just now in terms of time. It being said that time heals all wounds. And I just modified that by saying wounds heal over time. Time doesn't heal wounds. They heal over time.
Yeah.
Once the healing process is engaged, because you could suffer an injury, suffer loss, and so on. But if you don't subject yourself to the process of healing, then the wound very well may never heal. It could get worse depending on what you do. So in the context of what you're talking about, I remember from my own experience, you see, when you lose a loved one, you are vulnerable. You're vulnerable. And that is a state that, emotionally you looking for help, you looking for comfort, etc., etc., etc. And from my own experience, I remember when my first wife passed away, that the morning that she passed, I prayed a prayer to God and said, Lord, keep me from volunteers. That was my prayer. Keep me from volunteers, because there are people outside here who are like what we call Kobo, that as death hit, as a matter of fact, some of them before death hit, they start to circle already, because they see you as a target. They see you as an opportunity, for them to fulfill perhaps a dream that they had for the longest while. And so it is important that we protect ourselves, we shield ourselves, our emotions, our heart, you understand? And we entrust that portion of ourselves to God to help us in the whole healing process, and so it's, I believe, also important to have people that we trust, have people that we could be accountable to, to help us navigate that period of our lives when we suffer loss, and we grieving, and that sort of stuff. It's important to have a strong support system, to even help us deal with our emotions and that sort of stuff. So that would be my contribution. Definitely, you don't want to, in that vulnerable state, you don't want to be looking to reconnect at the marriage level so soon. Now, mind you, um, there are people who have been able to rebound pretty quickly, and you know they probably had their eyes on someone before, maybe not, or they know someone, right? They know someone who, based on their observation, would be a good fit or a good match. So those cases do exist, but they may be fewer and far between. All right. So again, it's
Yeah.
more the exception than the norm. All
Yeah,
right. So
I would want to agree with that statement that you made, Riquen, that maybe they had their eyes on someone before, because we see that happening. We see that happening. We see where a death has occurred, or a divorce has occurred, and within quick time, you see remarriage and that sort of thing. So it may very well be, that person is not so much that they've recovered quickly from the process, but they would have had help in the recovery by somebody, But we don't want to get into that. We don't want to get into that part of it. Riquen, it's your turn now to share another one.
all right. So this one, which one should I choose? This is pretty straightforward. Don't get married because you want to become a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, well, I had that one as the last one. Yes.
Yes. I had that one in special reserve.
Yeah, no, Riquen, a lot of people will be vexed with you for that, huh?
Yes.
That's a U.S. citizen, a TNT citizen too, or any
Well,
citizen.
that too, for real, for real.
Right? Because we have that happening here now.
Yes,
Right?
indeed. Yes,
Right.
indeed.
But people will tell you it's a marriage of necessity. It may not be a marriage of love, but it's a marriage of necessity. And I have to do this, Otherwise, I won't be able to. I'll have to go back home. I have and people will tell you that, right? But I do agree with you. I do agree with you that it is not a reason. I mean, when you think of marriage being an institution established by God, and it's for two people to come together, to live together, to love and to procreate, and all the things that marriage is about. Getting married for citizenship, I think, goes against all that God has established marriage to be. This is a marriage of convenience, and and I don't agree with it at all. I don't agree with it at all, Judge.
Yes, the thing about it is this: when you look at marriage is a covenant or promise, and too often we don't remember that marriage is not just between a man and a woman. God is at the helm of every marriage, and God is a serious God. God is not into economic convenience. God is not into fiscal benefit. God is a God of his word. And if God anoints a marriage, no man should be able to put that marriage asunder without any good given reason. So let's stop today, Trinidad and Tobago, playing politics and dancing around what the institution of marriage is. Let us start replacing the respect that the institution of marriage deserves on it. Visas, money, these conveniences are no reason to go before man and God and make vows just to break them later because your transaction has been completed. These are things that you will have to answer for at the end of your days. I will repeat, these are things that you will have to answer for at the end of your days. So it may seem easy now, it may seem convenient now, it may seem beneficial now. You still have to answer for these things when you meet the master above. And that's my humble contribution on that.
Thank you, George. Thank you so much, George. Again, just to remind folks that you can call us if you wish to contribute to the show. The numbers are 480-4121, 480-4121, and 463-7208, 463-7208. You can send us a WhatsApp message to 275-1981. I don't know if we have any WhatsApp messages. I'm not able to see from where I am. But,
we have two. Actually, we have a call. Let me take the call and then I'll give you some WhatsApp messages. About two we have.
Okay.
Take this call. Hello.
Okay,
hello. Good evening.
Yep, we're following you, but my contribution is that a lot of professional marriage fall through. They last at all. And there are some people that are not professional, but the marriage lasts because they are Jesus in the marriage.
Yeah, I hear you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Yes.
Let me give you the WhatsApp messages we had. One person said, when my niece got married, let me get this. When my niece got married, she dedicated a 2-month-old. Let me start over. When my niece got married 20 plus years ago, she dedicated a 2-month-old son before they got married the same day. Still going strong. 3 children now, 2 boys, 1 girl. Just reading it as it is. We have somebody had a question. They said, "Good night, nice program. I am in my 40s and do not and I'm not married." I believe they were trying to say, looking for a wonderful husband. One question: can a old woman marry a young man? I don't know what they mean by old, but can a old woman marry a young man? I'm just reading it as I get them.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah,
George?
those were the 2 messages we had. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Why are you calling my name, Professor?
I don't understand. Aren't we having a discussion, George?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. But I was hoping to sink to the background after hearing that last text message.
If you could put yourself out there too, the person's putting themselves out there as well. You never know. You never know what can happen.
Understood.
If I could say.
Yeah, go ahead, Riquen. Go ahead.
So the question is, can an old woman marry a young man? And the answer is yes, they can. They can. It's legally possible. All right. So it can be done. The question is whether it's feasible, whether and this that sounds as if it's either a marriage of convenience or a marriage of necessity. And you know how we refer to these older women who looking for younger women. They call them cougars.
Yes.
But they're something like a granny cougar. I mean, they're something beyond just cougar. You understand? I mean, who is the initiator of that relationship? It sounds so. It's not normal. It's not normal. And it's not ideal. Right? It's not ideal. But I cannot say that, there's no love, and I'm putting love in inverted commas, right? There's no love inside of there. I cannot say. But if we use some of the criteria that we've established, that marriage could be kind of shaky in the long term. But then again, there may not be a long term if we're talking about an old woman. So I wouldn't I wouldn't go that I wouldn't go that
Well, well, you know what, Brother Riquen, let's just put it this way. If they do have a lot in common, right? If they do have a lot in common and they do share a lot in common, like for example, all right, musically, a lot of people tell me I'm an old soul because when it comes to music, apart from gospel music, I listen to things like Earth, Wind and Fire, Brooke Benton, Peaches and Herb, things that music and ideologies that were before my years, at the end of the day, if they do share a lot of things in common, this can be something that can work. An elder woman and a younger man, it can work. There's nothing to say that there may not be feasibility and cohesion there. Um, it just has to be that there are a number of factors that have to be understood by both parties. At the end of the day, certainly you're not going to be asking your over 20-year senior wife to go to party with you. And then again, she may be young at heart and she may very much be into that type of social life. However, there has to be a lot of dialogue. There has to be a lot of communication for a relationship like that to work. There has to be a lot of give and take for a relationship like that to work. And the main question, I think, is whether or not either party whether or not they are prepared to give and take and do what is necessary to meet each other in the middle. If that cannot be done, then that relationship will have a very short shelf life. If those levels of understanding cannot be met, then unfortunately that relationship will have a very short shelf life. However, it is feasible, it is something that can be done, but there needs to be that necessary communication between both parties, and there needs to be a general understanding that leads them both to the same page before they think about marriage. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, and I agree with you, George. I don't think we should dismiss it and say that it can't work or it won't work. We know of instances where it is working, and we have seen it work before. But as you said, yes, there needs to be a lot of dialogue because it has to do a lot to do with expectation. The young man needs to know what to expect. This is an older woman. What happens to older women as they grow, grow older? She needs to understand that even at his youthful age, there are certain things that he would be prone to do, and that may not necessarily blend, for the want of a better word, with what you would want to do. A number of things. So this is would not be a normal relationship. So a lot has to, as you say, a lot of dialogue, a lot of talking about the future and what is expected, and from both parties, and not just the future, but even the present, because she may find out that he wants to do certain things that you really expect me to do that, that sort of thing. So it can work. It can work. It's not advisable. It's not advisable, but it can work. We run out of time, but I just want to throw in maybe one more, hopefully. I don't know if it's my turn as yet, but there's one that we were talking about, and we sort of mentioned it, and I want to know what you guys think about it. It has to do with your status, right? Some people get married to improve their status, and I'm not just talking about the citizenship. I'm talking about the fact that you're in a financial situation, things are real bad, and there's this lady, there's your friend, and she has money. Her family has money, or maybe because of her career, she has money, and she's willing to get married to you, and it's going to improve your situation. It's going to take you out of debt. your financial situation will not be as it was before. And she's willing to hook up, she's willing to get married. So why not? Why not? Because if you um, if you don't get married, you might stay in the same situation, and who knows, it could get worse, and you don't know how you're going to make out. But the marriage is going to take care of that. So is that a good enough reason, gentlemen, to get married, to improve your financial situation or improve your status? And not just the financial situation, maybe the kind of circles that she travels in now, or she moves around in, you get an opportunity. Normally, you wouldn't get the opportunity to go to those kind of functions and meet those types of people and that sort of thing. So why not? What say you, gentlemen? That's going to have to be our last one for tonight. What say you? And there's silence.
I think with Riquen and I, we just waiting to see who will go first. So I'll go first this time, Riquen. And that's just the thing. It's more than just about financial status or circles. Sometimes you find people hooking up with people, getting married to people because of what they can do for them employment wise. They might be the daughter of the boss, or they might be some large name, some big name, as we say in Trini parlance, that can open doors for you. But what happens after those doors have opened and you've walked through? What happens to the marriage? What happens to the relationship? Is it that at the end of it all, you both end up growing cold towards one another because you've gotten that brass ring that you've been striving for? Or is it that at the end of the day, you go your way, she goes hers? It is certainly not enough groundwork for a foundation for a marriage. And I know that a number of men may debate that point, because they would say, well, no money, no love, but the truth of the matter is, there are many marriages that exist today that are quite comfortable, quite financially affluent, and love is devoid in the entire marriage. And both parties are suffering as a result. Love does, as they say, money genuinely cannot buy love. So marrying for that convenience of having doors open to you, it's just another game of Russian roulette. There are some marriages that are quite successful based on this alone. However, as we have pointed out before, these are few and far between. And that game of Russian roulette is not one that you want to play with a relationship within which you are committed for the rest of your life.
Hi, good
move it on to
evening,
my
Professor.
brother
Sorry to cut you, George. It was a WhatsApp message that I just got that I figured you may want to address before your time is done, before our time is finished. And it goes like this. The reason, this is the message here, the reason the lady asked about her marrying a younger man is simply because it is frowned upon. However, when men go and marry a younger woman, it's okay. There's a serious double standard there. And it is unfair for a woman to wait until near 40 to have children. Whilst we are in a new time with new technology, it is not fair for her to go through IVF and all those unnatural procedures. Also saying that there are certain things that men do when they're younger is simply not acceptable. Stop encouraging that foolishness. Just by saying it is a form of encouragement. Just my 2 cents, but you all need to have some women on there as well when having these discussions or debates. So I figured you might want to address this before you you are finished. I think your comment on things that men do at a younger age might have been misunderstood. But you could explain.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it was misunderstood. But let me just, in fact, let me allow Riquen to speak and in fact give everybody a chance to close off because we don't have much time. And if I get a chance, I will you know respond to that. But we need to close off. So Riquen,
Um, uh, well, I don't want to comment on the last comment. But I would say it's bordering on dangerous to get married on the basis of a situation. It doesn't matter what the situation is, because after the situation is dealt with, then is the reason for the situation in the first place, is it sustainable going forward? So whether that situation is, as you pointed out, this guy, he in a financial bind, and there's a woman who is prepared to bail him out, um, and to save him out of his distress, and who's prepared to marry him. That could actually be similar to what we started off with in terms of the individual who is, providing help. Exactly.
yeah, obligation,
Exactly.
yes.
There may be a kind of similarity in those two scenarios. So I wouldn't encourage getting married just on the basis of trying to get out of a situation that is dangerous. And the same would apply for people who are having trouble home and they just want to leave home and escape from that environment. And so they look to get married. Same principle. It normally doesn't make for a long-term marriage.
Yeah. Thank you. George, 30 seconds. We're almost out of time.
I'll make it as quickly as I possibly could. Trinidad and Tobago. This is a part of a 4-part series, if I'm not mistaken, Professor. It's been 4 weeks that we've been on this topic, and I would encourage you to go on to Facebook, the FBN page, and get the prior series that we've addressed the things that you should look for in a partner. The things that we've addressed before. To fully understand, to fully comprehend what we have discussed tonight, to get a holistic view on what we've discussed, because I realize that a lot of the points that are being made without taking into consideration what was discussed before. So I would encourage you, Trinidad and Tobago, go onto YouTube, listen to the entire program. It's wonderful, wonderful food for your spirit. So Trinidad and Tobago, I love you. Have a wonderful evening. God bless and keep you always.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Riquen. I wish I had time to fully respond to that lady. Don't have time. We're out of time now. But thank you so much. And let me what I will say to that is that we did say that it is feasible. It can be done. We are not throwing it out at all that an older woman could get married to a younger man. It is just that that could pose some problems that they may not be able to handle later on. But as with anything, once there's proper guidance, there's proper dialogue, then it can happen. We're not saying it's wrong or it's a sin or anything like that. We have not said that and we will not say that. But I don't have time to develop that point. I just want to say thank you so much to both George and Riquen for sharing the time with me again today. Thank you so much to Anaya Tony, the Fleet Lady, for the sponsorship of this program. Folks, we're here every Saturday night from 8 to 9:30. We want to say God bless you. And this is the end of Mentor for today. My name is Noel Richards, a.k.a. The Professor. And as George said, you can go onto our YouTube channel and pull up what we've done in the past. And some of your questions might be answered then. So God bless you. Adesola, it's back over to you. Have a good night, folks.
Thank you so much, Professor. You have a good evening.
Okay, bye-bye.
I will restore.
Hello.
Hey, Hey Jack, you missed the meeting yesterday, boy. What happened?
Andrea was under some pressure, boy. Well, you know, Uncle have diabetes, high blood pressure, and poor circulation. He couldn't even walk properly yesterday, so I took him to the feet lady, boy, Dr. Nayatoni. And let me tell you something, when they're done with him, he feels so good. You know the man forget he walking stick by them. When I go back for the next session, we'll get back, man.
I must send her number to my cousin. She have a pinched nerve, lupus. And I think she uncle got a stroke, you know. I had to see about my back pain too.
Well, Andrew, what are you waiting for? Take these numbers down one time. 360-5166 and 478-7416. Dr. Nayatoni, boy, the feet lady from Anaya Health and Wellness Center. You can't go wrong. The Family Focused Broadcasting Network presents Student Preparation 2022, Sunday, March 27th, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Our second leg for primary school exams in the Caribbean continues. Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, Grenada, Guyana, Jamaica, Bahamas, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dominica, St. Lucia, Belize, Trinidad and Tobago. We connect, calling all primary school students preparing for exams, parents, teachers, social workers, and guidance counselors. We have sessions for you too. Be a part of this free virtual experience. Powerful breakout session. Students will receive best practice tips for preparing for exams, spiritual support through prayer. This promises to be a dynamic, innovative, and interactive program. Student Preparation 2022, Sunday, March 27th, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Sponsored in part by L Eclipse Limited Parkers, 12 Francois Building, Triangle Avenue, Calder Hall, Tobago, and Domino's, the pizza delivery expert.